listening to The Book of Life, a show about Jewish books, music, film, and web. I'm Heidi Estrin. The Book of Life is a podcast service of the Feldman Library at Congregation B'nai Israel in Boca Raton, Florida. Additional support comes from the Association of Jewish Libraries. I am proud to introduce the Book of Life's new Canadian correspondent, Anne Dublin. Anne was a guest on our podcast in the third ever episode back in February 2006, talking about her award-winning book, Bobby Rosenfeld, the Olympian Who Could Do Everything. Anne will be recording material for us up in Toronto, an enviably literary location. Anne is a librarian, teacher, and author, and today she'll let us sit in on her writers group, all the members of which happen to be Jewish. Let us know what you think of this new aspect of the podcast, and be sure to check out Anne's own website at annedublin.ca.
Hi, this is Anne Dublin. I'm the Canadian correspondent for the Book of Life podcast. I'm in Toronto with my writers group. We write for children and adults about many different topics. We drink lots of coffee or tea, eat yummy food, but most of all, we give each other great feedback about our writing. Let me introduce you to the group. Rona Arato has been a writer and editor for over 25 years. Rona will have 5 books coming out this year and next. Lynn Westerhout is a former elementary school teacher. Her book, Making It Home, The Story of Catherine Parr Traill, won the Francis E. Russell Award from IBI. Frida Wyszynski is the international award-winning author of over 40 books. One of her latest, Please Louise, has just been nominated for the TD Canadian Children's Literature Award. And I'm Anne Dublin. I've written biographies, historical fiction, and short stories. I also write and edit book reviews of Jewish children's books. Our 5th member, Sidel Waxman, couldn't be here today. Hopefully, we'll catch her another time. So, we're here, and I'm very curious to explore some questions about writing for children, writing Jewishly. My first question has to do with the themes, the topics that we write about. Where do we get these ideas? How do we choose them? And what is Jewish or not Jewish about these topics? Who wants to start?
I'm Rona Arato. I think a lot of the ideas that I've used in my writing come from background, family stories I've heard all my life, told about growing up in the Lower East Side of New York, coming over as immigrants. And as far as Jewishness goes, I think my Jewish way of thinking infuses a lot of the work I do, so that even if I'm writing about a non-Jewish topic, I'm still writing tends to be more, at least for me, more liberal, very human rights oriented.
Hi, my name's Frida Wyszynski, and when I think about what I write about, which often covers things like relationships, the way people interact, feeling like an outsider, I think that my humor is very Jewish, and I think humor has helped Jews survive, and it helps me survive. Every day when I deal with bullies or with an unfriendly world, finding a way to turn it around and make it funny helps me cope, and I think it's helped Jews cope through the centuries.
This is Lynn Westerhout. My experience is a little different because I'm a convert to start with. I think writers very often are on the outside looking in. Being a convert is also a slightly outside position. I don't have the family background of stories or the family traditions. I adopted all of those. And I don't, generally speaking, write about overtly Jewish topics. But how it informs my writing is I become aware of how this might be seen and what the contrasts between Jewish and non-Jewish ways of life are in a more specific fashion than I would if I hadn't, I think. So it can go both ways.
And I'm Anne Dublin. I think one of the reasons that I write, I keep thinking of the phrase tikkun olam, a way that we are responsible for repairing the world. I write a lot of biography, and the people I write about are people generally who have made a difference, who in their own way have tried to make things better for other people, whether it's through sports, through social action, through dance and working with artists, whatever it is, they all have tried to make this world a better place. So let's think about something else. Being Jewish informs our writing, but there's more to being a writer than being Jewish. What got you started writing? Where did it come from? What was the motivation? Frida?
One of the things I've always done to deal with what happens to me is to tell a story. And I think Jews are natural storytellers. As we've drifted from one place to another, we tell stories. The Bible is a story, and all the other texts are stories. So I think it was the need to tell my story and the story of people around me and the story of my personal history. And stories are really what got me started. The need to put it down, need to give it a name.
I'm Rona. I've always wanted to write. I can't remember a time when I didn't. I think I started back in the 2nd or 3rd grade. I used to love to write poems and jingles and stories. And like Frida, I always had a very rich imaginary world. And as a kid, I could play for hours and hours with turning almost anything, a rock, a spoon, into a character. And I think it's just something that came naturally and has always been there, although I didn't act on it until much later in life.
This is Lynn. I think I come to writing through being a reader and through trying to escape from my life and to try and understand some of the things that happened to me through the stories that I made out of them. And your point, Anne, about tikkun olam, to make it better. To make it come out all right, especially for the child parts in me, in the children's work, and in some of my adult work as well.
That's really interesting. This is Anne again, because my writing came from stories too. When I took 2 or maybe 3 storytelling courses, the stories generated ideas for books that I wanted to write down. Not just stories I wanted to tell people, but stories I wanted to write down and share that way. And also because of my background as a teacher, and I used to correct kids' work all the time, their written work. And then one day I thought, oh, maybe I can write something too. So everything comes together eventually, one way or the other. Just one more question. What are you working on now? What do you hope to accomplish, let's say in the next year or 2, through your writing, through your storytelling? Frida?
I tend to work on many things at the same time because I go where my interest takes me, and that's the exciting thing about writing. If something's exciting, I can go down that path and explore it. And the other wonderful thing about writing is life has a way of surprising you and taking the control out of your life. And story is a way of shaping and controlling what happens. So I kind of don't know exactly what I'll be doing. I'm in the middle of writing a series. I'll continue with that. I'll probably do some nonfiction. I'll work on a couple of picture books. I'll see where something surprising draws me in, and I think I'll go with whatever that is.
I'm just finishing up several books, one of which is a fantasy set in New York about immigrants that had started as stories I told my children 35 years ago. And I've been working on this book on and off for at least the last 20, probably longer. So I'm finishing that up. I do have a publisher, which is very exciting. I'm hoping to do a sequel to that and maybe even turn it into a film. I'll continue doing biographies and writing about people who I feel have made important contributions to Tikkun Olam, to human rights. I have a book coming out in the fall called Courage and Compassion, about 10 people who really made a difference in the field of human rights, and that's a subject that I'll continue to pursue.
What about you, Lynn?
I'm working on various things, bit by bit. Some more children's picture books and adult historical romance. But one of the things about writing, and this might go back to your question about Judaism too, I love words, I love language. So whatever I'm writing about, I like to get in-depth into the subject in the background and find all the language that goes with it. If it's the language of plants or the language of the weather, make it really rich linguistically. So poetry is another love of mine, and I'll be writing more poetry as well. One of the joys of discovery was discovering Hebrew and Yiddish and the glorious ways in which that can interact with English and expose the different ways of thought that we have related to language. So it's play with words as much as possible, and my stories will come out of that.
This is Anne again. Right now I'm working on a collective biography about women dancers, and as I've done the research, I've discovered that of the 10 women, 3.5 were Jewish. And I don't know how that happened, but it just... I didn't set out to write a book about Jewish women dancers, but it's almost like that. So I'm very excited about that. That book will be out in spring 2009. And I have a short story, that will be published in November. That one is for adults. Oh, and my new project, it's really an old project I've been working on for 10 years, is a book of historical fiction based on a family story my father told me. So that's about it for now. This is one of the wonderful things about working in a writers group and with writers, is that we get such different perspectives on our writing, and we love to get together. We love giving each other feedback. We love having our coffee and tea and enjoying our times together and sharing this wonderful life that is the writer's life. Thanks for listening. Bye for now.
The Book of Life is a podcast service of Congregation B'nai Israel of Boca Raton, Florida, at cbiboca.org, and is supported in part by the Association of Jewish Libraries, online at jewishlibraries.org. Our background music is provided by the Freilach Makers Klezmer String Band at freilachmakers.com. Visit our podcast website at bookoflifepodcast.com, or listen to the latest episode by phone at 916-313-3820. We welcome your comments and questions at bookoflifepodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and happy reading.